Well, hey there, all you cool cats and kittens. Welcome to another episode of the Age Groupies Podcast, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Mike Ergo, and along with my co-host Lindsay Hiken, we're here to talk to you about all things related to endurance sports from an amateur athlete perspective. We talk about how to have fun along the way and make our sports a little less intimidating. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to email us, agegroupies@gmail.com. If you guys like the show, please leave us a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
I want to talk to you about UCAN Superstarch. UCAN is what I consume on the race course and for long or intense training sessions. Now, it's different than any sports nutrition out there because they use Superstarch. Superstarch is a complex carbohydrate that doesn't spike blood sugar, delivering a slow and steady release of glucose into the bloodstream. Stable blood sugar provides steady energy to both the muscles and the brain and controls cravings caused by blood sugar lows. I recently used this to complete the Pandemic Man 70.3 using only UCAN, and let me tell you guys, I was surprised by how well it worked. Pleasantly surprised. I didn't need to use any gels, anything, just UCAN. And I felt great. I didn't feel bloated, didn't feel hungry, didn't have any of those intense cravings I get on the race course a lot. So I want you to try it out too. Learn about why you should fuel the pursuit with UCAN and save 10% on all your orders by using the link in the show notes. Thanks.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to Age Groupies, and today I got Kyle Powers on the show. Kyle, what's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. And yourself?
I'm doing all right. It's a good start to a day. I just got off Zwift, and so I'm got my training in for the day. How about you?
Got to get on Zwift yet today. Stage 8 of Tour de Zwift.
Oh, nice.
On the plan today. So.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've not completed any kind of like those extra like epic races of Zwift. I've just stuck to the regular stuff so far. But well, this is gonna be fun. We chatted a little bit, online and talked about your story, which is pretty amazing, and how you came to be where you are now. So let's educate our listeners and tell us what you're all about and where it starts.
Yeah, absolutely. So back in high school, which would have been in the mid to late 90s, I'm 38 now. I was kind of into mountain bike riding a little bit, and had read a magazine about Ironman, about triathlons and things like that. Didn't know much about him. Was a relative athlete in high school. Did cross country, wrestling, and golf. So those are kind of a three weird mix of sports in high school. But,
yeah.
And I wasn't very good at cross country, so I don't necessarily have a huge running background. I was on the varsity team, but that's because we only had enough guys just to fill the varsity team. So
right.
Sports, and kind of saw that. I always thought in the back of my head it'd be really cool to do an Ironman someday. I thought that was kind of the pinnacle of athletic achievement. I couldn't almost believe at that time that someone could even do that. My life kind of got interrupted there around when I was 16 years old. My stepdad got in a car wreck and passed away, unexpectedly, obviously, and kind of put me through a lot of turmoil. I found some safe haven in drugs and alcohol at that point. Went into my first treatment when I was 16 years old. And so that kind of derailed the rest of my high school sports there. Was pretty much in and out of treatment till I was 22, when I actually overdosed, spent a week in intensive care. They brought me back to life a few different times. And so very, very blessed just to have life at this moment. And I ended up getting 9 years sober after that overdose. Went into some programs and rehab again, and things were really well that way, but I wasn't living a healthy lifestyle by any means. Career, family, all that, and pretty much put my addiction into eating, and got well over 300 pounds at my biggest.
Yeah What was can I ask, what was your like food of choice? What were your go-tos?
Anything.
Anything?
Chinese buffets were
Nice.
I started lifting and working out a little bit with a friend of mine who was a big, bodybuilder, power lifter kind of guy, just a massive human being. And so I really enjoyed the fact that every time we'd go lift, we'd go to the Chinese buffet and eat for like an hour. And when you're working out like that, you can kind of do that.
Yeah.
The problem was I didn't work out like that for very long, and I just kept the eating part of that.
Yeah.
We got quite big, and then after being sober for 9 years, I guess I decided it was a good idea to start drinking again, because I always had this thought in my head that when I became successful in life, which to me at that time success was defined as a good career, and family, house, that kind of thing, that I could start drinking again. And so I did. Of course, as we know, anyone in recovery, usually that doesn't turn out well.
No. And can I ask you about that relapse? What was okay? So you defined success as a good career and said, when you get successful again, maybe I can start drinking.
Yeah.
How did that first drink start? What do you remember? Like right when you went back into it, what was the impetus for it?
I was at a dinner at Morton's Steakhouse in Chicago, very nice steakhouse.
Yeah.
For work, and was with some other industry, leaders, and we were up at the bar ready to get seated, and one guy said, "I'm buying," and I ordered a gin and tonic. I've never had one in my life up to that point.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was just a drink that I romanticized about or what, but for the fellow people in recovery that may listen to the show, that I think they would understand that part that I romanticized, about being able to have a drink. And I ordered a gin and tonic. Never had one in my life, and I was off to the races from there.
Yeah. So after that, it didn't take long to get that back in your lifestyle.
Yeah. So now I'm a haulback. So not very good there, and stayed drinking pretty much on and off. Had a little bit of sobriety in between there for about 5 years though, that I stayed drinking. So it was it's an interesting time in my life. I was not very happy. I had the good career, and that's what really allowed me to step back and define what success really is for me and what I think that is, because I think so many people have success is defined maybe by what their parents think, what their bosses, coworkers think, what their coaches may think, what their significant other may think. And I really thought long and hard, and I finally come to the conclusion that success is when you finally align with who you feel you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you find true happiness. And it's even to the point that as long as you're going in that direction, I think you can enjoy the journey, because some of us are so far away from where we feel we're supposed to align that it could take us, days, weeks, months, years to achieve that. And so as long as you're on that path and that journey, and if you stumble in that journey, I think that's sometimes where that anxiety, depression, and things can come in, because again, you're not following the path you think you should be on.
I like how you put it there, that becoming the person you think you should be. And it speaks to values, things you can't do enough of, but it's just a way of life, kind of like brushing your teeth, things you continually do. And I like that you're saying that is the point of it. I mean, you get to certain benchmarks, you make certain goals, but the values often gets overlooked, the reasons for why you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you reached a point, I remember you telling me, where you looked around, you looked at your body, you looked at your life, and you're like, I'm not happy with how things are. And you decided to make a change. Could you tell us about that moment where you made that big change?
Yeah. So for my wife and I's 15th wedding anniversary, we went out to Maui. And
nice.
It was great. It was absolutely fantastic. If you ever get a chance to, if you've never been, that's definitely a place you should check out. So went out there and thoroughly enjoyed it, except I had a lot of trouble just getting around, you walk a lot when you're there. My ankles swelled up. I just did not feel the greatest when I was out there. And then it wasn't until I got back home that started looking at a lot of the pictures that we had took out there. And I was like, man, I just looked miserable. I was big and just not happy. And so that would have been about 4 years ago that happened. And I decided at that point that I was going to make a change. I just didn't know when yet. So whenever I decide to do something, it's kind of a process that I think about it, because once I actually make a decision to do something, I do it. I go all out towards it. So I was like, well, I need to do something. I need to get in shape. I definitely need to quit drinking again. So but it was about 2 years after that I actually started putting in motion the ways to get in shape. And so my first foray into that was running. I ran up around the corner of the block, and that's about all the further I made it. And I was out of breath and sweating and hurting, and hurt for about 3 days after that.
Yeah. Can I ask you about that first run? What was so you it's like looking in the mirror. You're like, okay, let's see where I am physically.
Yeah.
And you take that run, it's around the block, and you're gassed, your body's hurting. At that point, are you discouraged? Or are you motivated? Or are you kind of like, wow, I got a big hill to climb, but this is going to be worth it?
Yeah. So my family has a lot of kind of athletes and marathoners, swimmers. I have a cousin that's on a scholarship to Nebraska for swimming. Her mom's done quite a few marathons, and my uncle, who's always kind of been a mentor to me, has been in business, and he always is working on getting in shape, and he's done some half marathons and things like that. And so, that was kind of the goal. And that was, through my mentorship of them, that's where I kind of thought about running would be, something I could do with them and have someone along. So yeah, so I go out and do that run, come back home. I was going to do a 5K was the plan. And I don't know if that was a good plan because I was not able to achieve that. But I came back, and I wasn't necessarily discouraged because I didn't, I know I hadn't done anything for a long time and it was going to take some time. I just thought I would have done better than that.
Yeah.
And so came back home and, called my uncle, and he said, well, sometimes what helps is if you have a goal. So let's sign up for a race. And I said, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet.
Ooh, that was a little bit of fear there, huh?
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. And so I said, well, let's focus on something maybe in the spring, because this was in the fall of that year. I said, let's maybe shoot for something in the spring. We can start looking at races and find something that makes sense. And over the winter, I got a treadmill because I live in northern Wisconsin. It gets quite cold here in the winter. However, I much enjoy running outside than inside. So last night's run, when it was 2 degrees actual temperature out, was I did the first mile on the treadmill and was like, nope, I got to go outside. So I bundled up and out I went. But and so over the winter for training for that first half marathon, I called them and I said, I don't think I can do it. I said, I don't think I'll be ready. I can't barely run 400. I was running almost every day. I, got into a program I found online, and I could not even do a beginner's program. I had a lot of problems with my hips and hip flexors and a lot of problems with my calves. And so I said, I'm going to keep working towards it. And I'll figure it out, and we're going to do one. I'm telling you, I'm going to do one. I just don't think it can be this spring. I don't think I'll be ready for it. And he said, okay, well, let's shoot for the fall then. I said, hey, no problem. And my saving grace there was yoga. I was like, what can I do and started looking online, and it was yoga. That really changed everything.
Well, so the benefits of it now, having done it, but what was the sell? What got you to do yoga? Because I know a lot of people are, until they do it, are kind of wary of it.
Yeah, and I certainly was. And so what kind of the sell on it was I needed something. I was willing to try anything. I mean, my hips hurt so bad after every after every run that I did, that I couldn't even a lot of times run back-to-back days, even on short runs, because I would just be in so much pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I'm willing to try anything. And that's what I did. And I almost found immediately, relief from that. It just after a session or two. So it sold me once I just did it.
Powerful thing. And, I definitely attribute yoga to, the reason I've been injury free the last 5 years, thankfully, because like anyone who doesn't knows, I mean, you build that strength around the poses, and then all the stretches you can do, and the increased flexibility, so you can actually use the proper muscles and proper parts of your body to run, bike, swim.
And I don't even do yoga, to an extreme. I do it probably 3 to 5 times a week, but I only do it for about 10 to 15 minutes when I do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing crazy. I know some people that do, for an hour or more at a time, and it's like I'm kind of allocating my time between training and that, and and everything. Yeah. And I'm sure you understand that part of it. So, but if I only had 20 minutes to do something, I'd probably do yoga.
That's good to know. It doesn't take like a whole hour or 3 hours like some people imagine it is. And I know with my community of veterans and with addicts, we a lot of us have an all or nothing approach where it has to be like all yoga, like a yoga retreat or nothing. But it's nice to know that you can do 10, 15 minutes of yoga and get these marvelous benefits that you're getting.
Yeah. And that was, that was really a big thing that you just mentioned right there about that all or nothing, or as my friend likes to say, I'm either tied to the dock or I'm wide open in the middle of the water, and so as, I was in the military, also was in the Navy myself.
Right on.
And I actually didn't finish my 4 years because I still had that drug problem when I went in. My recruiter thought it would fix me by going in there and knew my past, and I was not ready for something like that. I did well. I got just a general discharge. I didn't get dishonorably or anything like that, but still had my drug problem in there and stuff. And so I totally get that mindset also. And so this journey has been just that of getting into triathlon is to not be wide open, to throttle back, to take my time, enjoy the journey. Because me, it's like, Ironman next week and let's do one, and we all know that would be like my very first run, right? That would not have gone very well. So, I've set it up to where I'm not even going to do an Ironman this first year of training. Full Ironman is going to be next year.
Yeah, it's smart. Well, can we dive back, just step back a couple and talk about your first race that you did? So you started yoga, you take that through the spring and summer, and then did you make that race in the fall?
Yep. So I called my uncle, said, I think I'm good to go. We can book a race. And he goes, well, I'm not good to go. I stopped running, I stopped training, and he got busy with life and work. And I said, okay. I said, no problem. I said, well, we'll do a race someday. It's kind of where we left that. And I said, but I'm going to do one. He's like, all right, go get it. And so my first race was a extreme trail half marathon.
Your first one, you skipped a 5K, 10K.
Yeah. Well, I've done a lot of those on my own, but I've actually never done outside of high school an organized 5K or 10K run. It's all been half marathon or longer.
I love it.
So, I did an extreme trail. My boss at the time, and that was right when I was transitioning into consulting and working for myself, his wife said she would love to do one. And so we didn't really train together because she lived kind of, about an hour and a half away from me. But we said, we'd touch base through points and then we'd meet at the race and run the race with each other. And so it was in Wisconsin here around Devil's Lake. They have a big bluff that you climb in the middle of the race. And even though I trained on some hills, I was not prepared for 20 minutes uphill. My heart rate just walking it was peaked, so that I had a goal time of 3 hours for the race, and I did it in 3 hours and 8 minutes.
Awesome.
And, humbling experience. My boss's wife in the last, 2 miles, she's like, I can go faster. Do you mind if I break away? I said, no, by all means go. And so she took off, and, she was 20 years, my senior. And, it was kind of humbling to me. But again, on this journey to realize that it's my journey. It's not a journey against her. It's not, I'm not competing against you. I'm competing against just becoming the best me that I can be. And so, finished that race. I thought it went pretty well. Again, I was ill prepared for what the whole race was going to be. I probably should have done a nice smooth road race first, but nonetheless, that was kind of, trial by fire. So
I respect that, man. I respect people who just show up, it's like some people are by the time they're ready, it's way past due for them to have done that race anyways. And they're mentally ready, but I respect people who just show up and say, let's see what happens.
Yep. And so that's certainly what did. And went well. Nutrition wise, I think I'm a pretty resourceful human being. So between reading and watching videos and reaching out, and now I have a coach, for triathlons, and just learn as much as you can so you can feel confident, when you're doing something.
Yeah. And so you finish that first race, and then what's next, and how does that bridge into triathlon?
Yep. So what was next was, all right, well, got to do a longer race.
Yeah.
And so I looked around and I found that just about 25 minutes from my house was an endurance run. There's a place, so Wisconsin doesn't really have any mountains. We have a few hills, I would say.
Yeah.
But this place is called Mosquito Hill, and it's one of the tallest hills in Wisconsin. And there is it's the Mosquito Hill endurance run, and they have a 3-hour, a 6-hour, a 12-hour, and they used to have a 24-hour, but since the whole COVID thing happens, they've scaled it back to 12 hours, the longest they have. And it's essentially a 5K loop, and every time around that loop, you go up and down that hill, essentially like twice.
Oh, wow.
So it gets a lot of vertical. And so what was nice, though, is coming into that run, with it only being 25 minutes away from me, I trained most of my long runs were done there. So
you're really familiar with the course.
And I didn't know exactly how they laid the course out, but I just ran all the different trails and felt confident and knew where the start finish and, the area was that I could keep my stuff and my team could be there to support me and whatnot. And so I decided I was going to do the 6-hour. It's what I decided on there. And so got in and did that race. I was much more prepared than I was for that first race, and kind of knew what to expect. And I got just over 20 miles in the 6 hours, on there. So I was hoping my big goal was to get a marathon distance in on that.
Yeah.
I just knew from my training times kind of going around and up and down that I didn't know if that would be possible. But I thought if everything went perfect and right, I could do that. And I at the end, because they only counted full laps, but when you came in to the end of the time and there wasn't enough time to do a full lap, they'd allow you to do what they called these mini laps. And so it was just kind of a down and out to the sign and back. And I was the first one in to be able to do those mini laps on the 6-hour. And so I took off to do those mini laps, and the sign had blown over. And so I ran way past the sign, and they actually came into the woods halfway up the hill and found me. And they're like, "You're way past it, way past it." And I was, after a 6-hour run being absolutely dead, I let that control me, and that anger and everything. I said, "Nope, that's done. I'm not doing another mini lap. I'm sitting down, even though there's some time left." I was just upset, with everything. And looking back at it, I wish I would have kept going, because it allowed a guy to get one more mini lap than me and win first in the men's. So I took second. Now it was only out of 3 guys, so it wasn't exactly fast. There was just 3 of us that were doing it. And so, but it would have been cool to get the, they did a handmade, first place trophies and plaques there and stuff. So it'd have been cool to have that. But, it was another learning experience for me that, I learned that I struggled, that when I thought something was going to be over, and if it was a little longer, that was kind of demoralizing to me. And so to be able to do, so a lot of times when I go out and do my runs, like last night was just a short 5 miles, I did 5.2. Just that little, I always make myself do just a little extra. So I'm not always, focused on, oh, that's the end. And if something happens, oh no.
I like that. It reminds me, and I've probably told this story a bunch on our podcast, but like we do, company or platoon PT, and our platoon sergeant, we'd head back to the barracks and we're like, all right, we're finally done. And then they'd loop around the barracks and head back out again. Yeah. And you'd see everyone's faces just totally demoralized. And that's such a kick in the gut when you get that. You think you're done and then you're not.
Yeah. Or when you're swimming and you think you did your laps and you look at your watch and you're like, oh, I got 50 more to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that brings us to, that would have been about a year and a half ago that I did that race. It would have been October of 19 that I did that race. And so I kind of took it easy through the winter there. And, we're just kind of doing some maintaining of the running. I called it 5K Fridays. I made sure that at least every Friday I got a 5K in, just to kind of not lose anything that I had going for me. And the idea was, and I was talking a lot about doing an ultra, doing a 100 miler and working up towards that. And after, watching a lot of videos and starting to put on more mileage and training, I realized that I was getting quite bored with just running.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was great. And I was making progress and I enjoyed it. But sometimes it was like, 20 miles again, it's just, that was
no variation.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, what do I do? And so I kind of took a step back and, through that's when COVID hit, was that, then the start of this last year. And I said, well, definitely with being stuck at home, I'm not going to go the negative way and not work out and gain weight back. And so I have a brother that's a personal trainer, lives down in Australia. And, he is 100% plant-based, diet. And he's like, hey, why don't you try that? And so, I started doing that. I'm about 90% plant-based. I still eat some meat and some animal products, just not that often. But so I, learned about that diet and kind of got into that and, started running a little bit more again through that. And I was like, wow, what do I do? I was kind of itching for not having a goal to shoot for, what I was going to do. And so, I just had that little thought in the back of my head. Remember in high school, you thought it would be cool to do an Ironman? And I was like,
it just popped in your head.
Yeah.
Like when you're thinking,
yeah,
I love it.
And I was like, oh, that'd be interesting. I mean, that's swimming, biking, running. All right. I swam a lot. We lived on a lake and a river growing up, and my dad's house, and family had a pool. And so, I swam a lot, not competitively, but I like the water. So I was like, all right, that'd be all right. And biking, I did a lot of biking as a kid. I haven't been on a bike in 20 years, but it can't be that hard. I mean, it's a bike, right? They say,
Exactly.
It's not to ride a bike. So I was like, yeah, I think I'll, I thought about it for a couple of weeks and I said, all right, I'm going to commit to that. And I talked to my wife because I knew it was a big commitment and said, hey, if, are you in if I do this? And, because it's going to be a lot more training than I was doing when I was running and costs associated. And she's like, yeah, go for it. And
I love the support. It's so crucial.
Yeah.
And when people skip those steps, man, I think it ends in divorce quite a bit.
Well, also, I think if you go back to my defining of success of who you align of who you're supposed to be, I mean, if you are aligning with who you feel you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do and the people around you don't, I mean, it just causes friction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the biggest thing too about, show me the 5 people you hang around and I can pretty much tell you who you are, right? You become who you hang around in association and stuff. And so I think that's why a lot of times when you start growing out of maybe those situations, those old friends and hangouts that you used to go to and change your life differently from that, why a lot of times you just have to change your friends because not everyone will go along the journey with you,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you get the support from your wife, which is awesome. And you start training, and then like, so you're in the process now of building your schedule to work up to what, are you going sprint Olympic, half Ironman?
Essentially, I did a sprint myself just to see where I was at. So I've been very, very blessed, as I hear from other people, that I have a pool that's 2 miles from my house, and it's
Nice.
open and it never closed. We live in a small northern Wisconsin town, not really affected too much by COVID. And although they take precautions, you have to wear masks, that kind of stuff when you go in there.
Yeah.
But, it has been open and it's inexpensive, for a family membership there. So it's been very great, to be able to go there. And so, I just arranged my own sprint. I just went there. I did the swim, drove the 2 miles home quick, had the bike set up on Zwift, ready to go, hopped on there. And then, immediately off of there, out to the run outside for the 5K. So I just wanted to know that I could do one.
Yeah. How'd that first one feel?
Fantastic. The interesting part was I thought the run off the bike was really going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found actually that's one of my natural abilities, is that just the cadence on the bike puts my run into a better place. And actually my personal best 5K has been off of a brick training session. So
that's a phenomenal superpower for triathlon, man. I love that.
Yeah. My coach is like, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, this is crazy because it puts me like in the right cadence. And I think I need a little bit longer warm up than a lot of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of my runs, pretty much at any distance now, I negative split almost every mile. Like I just get almost stronger through the run. And it's, so yeah, that first brick run, I got my personal, it was an hour bike into a 5K. And I got my personal best 5K by almost 2.5 minutes. So it wasn't
That's
just
huge.
a little bit, it was huge. So
significant.
Yeah.
So you complete the sprint.
Yep. So
and then what was next?
I have a Olympic distance in May 2nd.
I was right on.
And that's an early bird triathlon in southern Wisconsin at the Whitewater College. And they have plans that if they cannot hold it at the college due to COVID, spiking again or whatever, that they have it laid out in some different areas where we can do the swim and then transfer over to the park to do the bike and the run. And so it looks like that one's going to happen regardless of what's going on.
That's great.
And then I have signed up for the Door County half Ironman distance triathlon, which is kind of in a touristy vacation area up in northeastern Wisconsin, kind of on Lake Michigan. So the swim, I believe, is in Lake Michigan in the bay there. And then it's supposed to be it's supposed to be really pretty, but a pretty hilly course. But the coach I got knows that course extremely well. And I got involved with a group called Green Bay Multisport, which is a group out of Green Bay for endurance athletes, triathletes, and whatnot. And, that's kind of like the group's race there. And so a lot of the people know that course well and can help me prepare, a lot for that. Also have a half marathon on the books in August that I signed up for. I had a good friend of mine that I go backpacking with a lot. His wife had a good friend that passed away from cancer last year, and she was a big runner, and her last name was Crawl. And so she used to get all her girlfriends out, I guess, for a half marathon distance that they would run, walk, or crawl was the saying.
I love it.
So it's the run, walk, or crawl half marathon. And I told her, well, if you guys, put that race on, I'll be the first one to sign up to do it. And so have that coming up. That should be a fun day, and to be around other friends and whatnot. I'll probably plan on putting in a few other races this year, whether they're runs or duathlons or triathlons. I'm not sure which ones I want to kind of fill the schedule out, but definitely the A race is July, that half Ironman distance. So.
Yeah. And then I'm guessing next year, is it going to be Ironman Wisconsin?
That's the plan. Yeah. That's the plan.
Nice.
So, So hopefully I can get into it and get signed up for it. And I'm kind of glad that I actually decided to wait because of all the, people that had deferrals coming off of COVID and all the races kind of changing and being done and whatnot, that kind of glad I decided to wait, and hopefully it won't be as hectic.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully there'll be some spectators allowed, and the energy of the crowd is just phenomenal, which is I'm excited for you there.
Yeah, I get so excited just talking about it.
Yeah. No, it looks like a beautiful course there too, and I it's on my list to do someday. Let me ask you.
Next year we can do it together.
I might be up for that, actually. Yeah. Let me. We'll talk offline about that, because that might be a plan.
What's pretty nice too is it's about 2 hours from where I live now, but it's only 30 minutes from where I grew up. So I got a ton of friends and family in that area. So.
That is cool. What's been the hardest, or the biggest obstacle or the hardest part of this journey for you, the training and racing?
Yeah, trying to, of course, time, fit it in. And so especially when I travel, because a lot of times when I'm traveling to go see clients, they're shut down. I mean, there isn't, you can't get to a pool, you can't get to a gym, even the hotels, the gyms, or you can't use the equipment due to COVID, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting to try to figure out how to train, when I'm on the road. And what to do. So it's always, can always run, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of been the thought there. And I've done a lot of laps in very small hotel pools.
I'm familiar with that. It's a weird
4
thing.
Strokes, you're already, flipping back around, but
yeah.
It's something to keep going. And for me, it's the trying not to quit in workouts, and that balance between, no, my body says I need to, I've gone too hard this week, I need to pull back, I need a rest day, I need, and what's been pretty nice now that I've had gotten a coach, I've had him for almost a month now, that he's been doing my workouts and putting everything together for me. And plus I have swim clinic on Sunday nights and he coaches that also. And so I get good time with him, and, training peaks, our notes back and forth. He reads them well. And, like the other night, I had a double workout day, a 2,500 meter swim. And then it was going to be a VO2 max workout on the bike. And even the warm up on the bike, my legs just didn't have it even for the warm up. And I hit that first harder, higher wattage, and was able to do it, but I'm like, man, that was really brutal. I remember last time I did this workout, I flew through it. I enjoyed it. It was tough, but it was all right. And then hit that next power cycle. And I stalled out my trainer. Essentially, I just didn't have the power. I'm like, okay, I should maybe not do this tonight. And so put it in, into the notes, and I had an email waiting for me in the morning. Hey, how you feeling this morning? What did you think? How was your nutrition? How was this, and so he's really trying to pick through to figure out, where I may, lack some things or whatnot. So it's really just figuring out, that journey, the gear that works for you. It's a big learning curve, I think. Swimming for most people is the big learning curve, right? Because it's so technical. And, going back to my thought of, I'm so, I spent so much time in the water as a kid, this should be no problem. And I hopped in my pool at the high school, and which was interesting. There was another guy in the pool at the time that has done a bunch of Ironmans. And he's the one who recommended me to the coach, and I'm watching this guy swim, and I'm like, man, that looks effortless. So I hop in the pool, and I'm reaching for the wall at the other side on that first 25. I mean, it was like my first run that I did, and I'm like, but I'm in shape now, though. I'm in shape now, like, what? This is weird. Why is, it shouldn't be this hard. And after doing some research, I learned that, actually it is pretty hard to get down.
It's humbling, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I did, watched a ton of videos, got like the Swimming Foundations book, all these different things. And, I just humbled myself, and I went through the basic drills and did all that. And I'm glad I did, because now, in the, even in the intermediate swim class that I'm in, I swim very well. I'm just as strong as a lot of them in there that have done the other Ironmans and things like that. And so I still have a lot to go on my form, and I certainly haven't got there, but I'm certainly not worried about the swim anymore as being any part of that.
That's great. And what I liked about what you said earlier too is the wisdom to know when to lay back and recover, because that's tough, especially if you're working out with a club or a team, or you have a coach and there's that pressure to want to perform and check all the boxes, get that training peaks looking green, and I've experienced that too, where I showed up to the pool and after the warm up, I'm still like, my battery's drained, and I'd go home, or I'd do something and just like, this isn't happening. And knowing that when I didn't do that and I pushed through some of those workouts when my body was telling me no, and you get sick, or you can get injured. It's just, man, some of us have to learn through pain, and hopefully it's minimal pain before we learn the lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I, doing a lot of reading and studying and listening to podcasts and, videos on YouTube and all that. That's something that I learned right away, that you really have to listen to your body, because sometimes we train 7 days a week, right? I mean, it's not really an off day. I only schedule off days when it makes sense, or I feel I need it. Of course, we have, some of the easy weeks and the easier workouts and things like that. But just listening to the body and knowing that. And, one other thing I'd like to say on this journey, I also looked at it, how can I give back? How can I, kind of make this bigger than just myself on this? And so one of the things I want to do is to raise money for scholarships for people to go to treatment that can't afford it. And so I know there's a lot of those type of groups around, and a lot of people that do that. And so I've been kind of reaching out to some different groups and seeing that. But on a personal note, through this COVID time, I had a few close people to me that ended up relapsing and they didn't make it. They passed away. So kind of doing some racing in their memory, and just announced one was a previous coworker that worked for me. She was a marketer of the year for 3 years in a row for me, won that award. And so I called the company, and we ended up changing the name of that award to recognize her, and gave it away for the first time this year to someone new. And the family was there to give it away, and a lot of people were on Zoom, both past and present, employees. And I said a little something, about her, and then made the public announcement that I would be racing, for recovery, to raise, funds in all my races for that. And specifically, my first Ironman being dedicated to her. I'm going to reach out to the family, and hopefully they're able to join at the finish line and celebrate in that. So
that's a beautiful thing. And I love that. I share a similar passion for racing for other people and honoring those who have passed. And it's something that, will push you through all those miles. And I have no doubt that you'll finish strong. So this is exciting to hear. Well, before we go, and we're obviously going to have you back on at some point in this journey, either after you finish your Ironman or along the way. But what would you tell someone who's out of shape, maybe where you were, who's looking at getting started and just sees this impossible mountain they have to climb?
Absolutely. You don't have to be great to start, but you do got to start to be great. And so just start putting one foot in front of the other. Do what you can. It's gonna suck. It's gonna hurt. But guess what? Staying just the way you are sucks and hurts also. So when it comes to that pain and sacrifice, the word sacrifice to me is actually a positive word, because everything you want in life lies just outside that comfort zone, and you're always sacrificing something, right? So if you want to maybe get an hour workout in, you might be sacrificing your hour of Netflix binge, right? Or whatever. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad word, but just make a decision and start putting the motions, going forward towards that. No matter where you're at, I think you can always get better. You can always grow, you can always learn. And that's the biggest thing, is to be able to do that yourself. and motivate yourself to just start is the hardest part.
That's awesome, Kyle. And you got a really inspiring story, and I'm honored to have you on the show here. And it's going to be exciting to watch as you continue to, knock down some doors and break some personal records of yourself and just honor those who have gone before us. So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Alrighty, that concludes today's episode of the Age Groupies Podcast with me, Lindsay Hiken, and my co-host, Mike Ergo. We really hope you enjoyed it. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to email us at agegroupies@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, as this really helps us get more exposure while we try to grow this little venture. And of course, if you have friends you think might like the show, please be sure to share it with them. But for now, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.